How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Good.
How's everyone? How are you?
Okay. It looks like we can progress to the next step. All right, we got our variance,
Yes,
all right?
thank you.
So, I think what we're gonna do tonight is, have you got any more information you'd like to provide to us?
No, everything remains as is. I've been in communications with the town attorney, Kevin Fox, about the gallery study, and I
Right.
believe he has started that process of ordering it.
Okay. And that, what we need to do is make a resolution to have that
Yes.
go.
Yeah.
So, anyone like to make that resolution to have
Well,
the,
what's this letter here?
That's a sample letter. The next 2 pages are correspondence from the attorney
Yeah.
in regards to.
So what is
I
the
got that
intent?
ready.
To send this out,
Yes, if you guys pass the.
request
Yes,
responses or proposals from
there's 3
the
different.
three that were indicated by Mr. Cox?
Yes. And I prepared the letter so that you guys could review it before I send it out. So I would be ready to send it out instead of delaying more time.
Is there anything in the letter, reading it, saying, by a certain date or as soon as possible, or after, what does it say, anything like that?
It says
you did indicate that.
is needed as soon as possible,
Oh, okay.
whatever that means.
Right, right.
And to supply a time frame to complete the requested traffic study, so they should get an idea. I've got names as well, I'm going to email it and then follow it up with a phone call and coax it around a little, see.
And this is specifically for Sanford Road? Yes?
All three.
It's all of them?
There's
Oh,
the 2,
okay.
the top 1 and 2 are what the
Oh,
DOT
Popo.
recommended.
Yeah.
And the 3 and 4 is Sanford Road and Popo and the access road, which is what the town and the county would be responsible to do.
Okay.
So I added those in there. If you don't want them, then we can take them out. That's the
No.
purpose of this letter.
More than mere, those are all.
Have you seen this?
No, sir, I have not. I believe it's a draft.
Yeah, it's just a draft that I
It's a
prepared
draft
for you
for
guys
Well,
for
can
tonight. I can certainly give her one when I make a copy.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
And Mr. Polito has agreed to pay the expense for
Yes,
that.
ma'am. We just felt for appearances of priority before this committee in the town, that the town facilitate the ordering of the gap and traffic study and not us, so there can be no allegations of tampering or wrongdoing.
Okay.
I make a motion that we ask for analysis, gap analysis on these 4 items as outlined in Lisa's draft of October 5th.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ah,
Yeah, I gotta have.
I'll send those out tomorrow.
okay.
Do you think we ought to put a date in there instead of as soon as possible, or is
Sure,
that?
I can do that if you want. I'm going to follow up with phone calls. That's just the initial, what I'll send them. But
I have no
names and
idea
numbers.
what's involved with that or how long it takes to do.
I can give you a little bit more insight. It's usually about a 2-week process, especially if a company knows that there is a pending item before a town planning board or any kind of municipality agency. So they're pretty quick, so I would say in about a 2 to 3 week period, we should have something formalized and presented to you. That's been my experience.
Good.
And this is the last thing we're really waiting on.
When they do these analyses, is it experimental? Do they do any?
Would you like me to adjust this?
Pardon me?
I can adjust this if you would like me to, because I've ordered these before for municipalities and also for a variety of clients, including bonding clients like Mr. Polito has. He has a bond to do with his mining. It is experimental. Often enough, you will have a group of people, sometimes 2 to 3 people, who will stand at various intersections with stopwatches, and they essentially count cars and trucks and other traffic. And in there, they'll calculate distances and times. And then most often, they will pull a lot of data from the New York State Department of Transportation's website and their records as to traffic flow and traffic data that the state would have had accumulated over time.
When they're standing there with their little thing, do they, 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours,
They
8
do-
in the mornings,
Yeah,
5
they
at
do
night,
it-
different type?
yeah, they do a combination of everything, in my experience. It's a
Mhm.
variety of days, nights, days, weekends, during high peak times, what they have identified in their experience. That's usually a commuter time, if we had like a traditional commute time in this area. But I think I do more what you would find in line with school bus traffic. You know, people leaving for work between like the 7 and 9 and then come home 4 to 7 time periods, things of that nature. But, you know, everyone relies upon these companies and their expertise to determine on average what you would be seeing at high flow times, peak times, and then on your lower timeframes of communication and transportation, traffic of that nature.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know how they do their accident analyses. You know, before we pick somebody, can they give us their criteria, what their methodology is? You know, that part of their proposal to us, in addition to just the cost, is what exactly are they gonna do? You know, they should come up back with a proposal, we're gonna do this, and it's gonna cost this much.
Okay.
That should be in this letter then.
I'll amend that. I can add that too. You can send them to you if you want, email it to you once they're changed.
They probably have some standardized procedure they go through, and
Again, in my experience, what I have found is that they just reach out to the New York State Police, County Sheriff's Department, and your local police agencies, if you had one. I don't think the town of Sterling has a police department, but, so it'd be county and state, and any secondary sources would be in this area, DEC, Border Patrol, SUNY, police officers, anyone who may have responded to a traffic incident. And everyone's a little bit different in time period. Sometimes it's a 1, 3, 5, 7-year look back. But, you know, you raise a very good question, find out what they're doing exactly, so you have a good idea of what you're looking for, what you need, so we don't have to go back and forth with this. But Mr. Cox can go over that with you too. I know a lot of these companies have really good websites, and they point you to what specifically they will provide and how they go about doing it, formulas, equations, sources, things of that nature.
So we'll be sending this letter to all 3 of these.
Yes.
And then getting the response back as to who can do it in a time period, right?
Yes.
Estimated then?
Yep.
Did you ask for that? And then
That's the bottom of the letter.
Okay.
and when you get the 3 responses, are we then gonna have a meeting and decide which one to choose?
I can schedule a meeting if you want to, or I can email them to you. You can email me back. If we have a meeting, I have to post it.
Yeah.
That's the only problem with that. But I can email the responses to you, or put them in an envelope down here, have you come out and pick them up, and then email me
Yeah.
what you, that would be quicker.
That might be the fastest way.
Okay.
Because the sooner you can get through this process, the better.
Yep.
So, okay.
Are there any other items, if I may ask, that the board would like to see, so we could just address this all at once?
Yes.
Or homework?
Well, I got a couple questions regarding the well on the property. Do you know the elevation, what the elevation is at the point at which it's been mined now?
So,
I think it's on.
Is it on one of the maps?
Well, he's got the elevation stuff, but I don't think it's. See these lines, 430, but I think that shows this top ridge by the road.
What I was getting at is,
In between the two.
there's a spot right now where it's already been mined,
Yeah.
and the well is near that.
Yep.
What is that elevation in relation to the lowest you're gonna get when you mine the rest of it?
When I dug a test hole here with the DEC, it was approximately about 3 feet is where the water level was, below this elevation. I have to stay 5 feet above water table. So I have to, they're not gonna make me fill this in because it's already been there, but I have to stay 2 feet above this elevation. You know, the floor that's there right now,
Yeah,
that they've mined.
I think that would be a good thing to have documented.
I have to, in my permit, I have to dig test holes periodically, of, you know, high water, and I have to keep track of that, of the elevation of the water, and just make sure I'm maintaining 5 feet above it.
I think it would be good to have a drawing which shows the well and shows the elevation of the present mined area, so that we can see what that is in relation to the lowest elevation that you are allowed to mine to. Because I have a feeling it's already below where you're gonna mine to.
This is below, it is.
Right.
Staying there.
It is 2 feet, but it's 2 feet below where I'm gonna be able to mine to.
If that can be
That's
on a
correct.
drawing somewhere. So we have a record of that.
Showing, rather than showing a top-down view, show a
Right.
cross-section this way, maybe here's
Yeah, I can
where,
have him come out and shoot
here's where the
it.
well is, here's where I'm gonna be mining, and here's how deep I'm gonna mine.
And so, right, so almost like an overlay using the DEC permit with the current survey, and so you can see how far it's going to go.
Yeah, and I also like, I would also like to know the depth of the well now in relation to the lowest level that you will be mining to, which is 5 feet above the water table. So we'll have we'll know the relationships of all these things. Yeah, with pencil.
What about the depths of the neighboring wells as well? Showing that. I mean, because that's the concern that people have with their wells, there's going to be some impact to this. Is there some way to show?
Well, see, I can appreciate the concerns, but if Mr. Ferlito's being directed in writing by DEC that he's not to go below the water table, he's going to go near the water table, and he's going to do test borings very regularly for follow-ups, including in the spring season when there's high water travel. I don't know how you do all that. I don't know what it's going to give you if you can't go remotely below or even near that well line.
It's just not knowing how that impacts the rest of the neighbors. I don't know what other kind of analysis could we do to show that it doesn't impact the rest of the neighbors as well.
I don't know either. I'm not sure if that's something you want to discuss with your town attorney, Mr. Cox, and see if he can give you a little bit of insight to that.
Because his having to dig the boreholes, it is a condition on the permit. There are a lot of conditions on the permit that you got from the DEC. Quite
And I have to
good.
document all that. So when they come in and inspect, I have to show them when I did it, you know, what spots of the mine I actually dug at, and what the elevation was.
One question I have with this DEC, with the DEC overseeing, is how easily we can access, or if we can update it every time they've come out to the site and asked him to do X, Y, Z, and he did it.
It gets documented somewhere.
To document.
Yeah, that's a perfectly
But
reasonable.
do they come once a month, or do they come whenever, it's a question I have.
As a courtesy, we'd be more than happy to share that with the town. I mean, you do have the right to know that. Otherwise, you can foil through DEC or just directly call DEC legal counsel down in Syracuse. They would have to turn it over to you. It is a public document.
It's just one way of us kind of overseeing the overseer.
Sure.
So that we're,
Checks and balance.
up to date.
Sure, completely agree with you.
Instead of, a month later saying, oh, this happened. But that was one of my concerns, is how exactly you follow up on that. And and are in the loop.
I'm sure you would have no problem as a courtesy provided to the
It's,
town.
you know, I'd like to know what they're doing.
Sure, that's a non-issue. So it'll be a simultaneous disclosure to both the town and DEC for all the test borings that are done. on-
Yeah, or whatever else they, you know, how often they're there checking X, Y, Z.
What is the purpose of the test borings?
For the issues that are being raised by the neighbors, just to be sure that Mr. Polito isn't going below or anywhere near that well, the source of water or the water line. the water
Just so I
table.
stay the 5 feet above the water
Right.
table.
Just
you
to
know,
ensure
throughout the
there's
whole
no
property.
impact to neighbors.
They used to do it in the spring and different times too, you know, when they would think that the
Or
water
they can
table
come
would
out
be
at
higher.
any time and request it.
Right,
That's what the condition said in the permit.
yep.
It's as if the DEC is doing your homework for you to take that burden and concern off of your shoulders and putting it on the DEC to make sure that there's no issues with water and to enforce the compliancy of it and then to have the disclosure of it so it's readily available to everyone. And then as a courtesy, Mr. Polito will also provide to the town the same result of all water borings.
Is this a normal requirement for a special permit for mine to have the test borings?
No,
It's not, okay.
not, I've never had to do it before, but they can put special conditions on it, on any permit.
Okay.
I still don't understand. The test borings indicate where the water
Elevation of
table
water,
is.
correct.
And you have to keep 5 feet above that.
5 feet above water table, yeah.
So let's say it's at 400. That means you can go down to 405.
405, yep.
So they come back in the spring, it's gone up to 402.
At high water table, that's why that's when I have to do test borings. So in the spring, you know, when you get all the snow melt, usually that would be your highest. So you dig, you gotta stay above high water table, 5 foot above high water table.
I see.
So using that high water table, presumably over time in the summer season, right, the water table drops. You can't go further down, you still
Right.
have to
Yeah,
use that
yeah.
high benchmark
Yeah.
plus the 5.
Well, they've already established the elevation of the water table, haven't they?
Correct, yep.
Is that what's going to be used then? Or they're going to come back and perhaps find a higher level?
That's what they have
And-
documented in the permit. that they
And
use
then that will
elevation.
restrict you from going as deep as you originally thought you could.
Correct. I mean, presumably, his measurement can change depending on the highs and
Yeah.
lows of that water table, especially at that spring time when that test is done. So sure, this is a moving target. Again, it's for the protection of the water table.
Yeah, that's why I'd also like to know the depth of the well that you have there now. Because that has to reach down into the water table, correct? In order to get water.
Yeah, the well is,
Yeah,
I think it's 9 foot deep.
So it's going down into the water table.
From the excavated level, from the bank where it started is probably 30 feet.
Yeah,
So 30 plus the 9 to the bottom of the well.
so when he digs down to within 5 feet of the water table, he's not going to be digging down anywhere near the elevation of the present well head top.
No.
No, no, no.
Okay?
And that's what they're there for, DEC. They will come out and they'll check, you know? And they can show up at any point.
So when you have a well, I mean, it's kind of rudimentary, but when you have a well, then you have to get down into the water table in order to get water.
Correct.
And the bottom of where you're digging is going to be 5 feet above that.
Correct.
So how could it affect any well?
I don't know. DEC says it won't.
Okay.
I mean, they've already done studies on this. They've already said it. They said it pretty plain as day, and they're.
Well, I was just trying to walk through the
Yeah.
logic of it all.
Yeah.
I guess it could be if there's another there might be several aquifers or whatever. And you could have one here where you're digging, and then maybe there's another one over on this part of the property that's higher, that's feeding neighbor wells.
And that's where the
then-
borings all over the site come in.
So you have to go all over how many borings over the site then?
How many have been done already, do you know off the top of your head?
Well, the only spot that, where I dug was right where the floor is now, because, you know, in the back, I can't dig deep enough to reach it.
Yeah. Yeah, you have
It's
to
that
go
much
through,
higher. I
you
mean,
have to go through 30 or 40 feet
yeah.
in the back, because it's a hill there.
Isn't that where the mine's gonna be?
Yeah,
But I'm saying, isn't that where you would wanna find out, because there may be water tables there that the other neighboring wells are hooked into. We don't know what they're hooked into unless we had a map that shows all the wells and what aquifers they were hitting.
see, here's where the well is now,
His well.
his well, way down here. And the water table is like in here.
Right,
And he can't go down only to here, which is above that.
yeah. But I'm saying, we don't know what's happening. There may be neighbors over here or whatever. We don't know. There may be, I don't know how many aquifers there are. The water table he's checking here may not be the same one that's feeding the other wells. How do we know?
But until they do some excavation in this area, I mean, they aren't gonna be able to do.
Yeah, the deepest, when I dug test holes before I purchased the property, I had an excavator that went 16 feet down, and that's as far as.
It was
I could
still
go.
gravel.
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
So they would have to do some excavation before they could do any test wells here.
So you're saying, once they started doing the excavation, they would do more borings then? Is that how it works, or?
What's that, sorry?
Once you would start doing excavation, you'd do more borings then, once you got down here?
Wherever I'm digging, yeah, because say this is the back of the property, that's where the life of mine, that's where I will be first. So, you know, I'll excavate down. I've never seen, usually your water table is here, you know. I'm not a professional at this, so I don't even want to speak, but usually water was pretty level, so. You know, I don't know. I wish my geologist was here to explain it, because he probably could explain it a heck of a lot better than I can. But yeah, you know, wherever you're mining, you're gonna know if you're gonna hit water or not.
Well, the thing of it is too, this is all gravel.
Water goes
And the water
right through-
table's here.
right through gravel.
Yep.
Yeah, the water goes through the
It doesn't
gravel.
retain any water, you know?
So I don't see how it can affect other wells.
Well, I don't know either. But there is a concern that that might be one of the impacts, and it would be nice to have somebody that did know.
Well, the DEC, I mean,
That
that's
could-
their job. They have already done their analysis on it. I don't know.
I don't know that they did that particular one, though.
They take that into consideration.
I mean, that might be another, maybe we should have a geologist
Yeah.
look at this question. Should we hire, just like we're doing a traffic analysis, do a water analysis? Because it's important, our water resources, and that it doesn't hit the stream bed or whatever.
I mean, you guys signed off for them to take care of their end.
Right,
So,
the
I mean, I don't know.
DEC.
Right.
That's their deal, I mean, really.
Right.
I mean, all of this stuff really, I mean, how do I say it without, I don't want to offend you, but you know, that's their job to regulate that, you know what I mean?
Their expertise.
Correct. That's everything, they take all that into consideration, and, I mean, we've had everybody out there.
I wonder if we could go back to the DEC and ask them that question specifically.
I'm sure Mr.
Yes, you
Clancy would
can.
be, yeah, he would.
Can you give us some documentation that shows that there will be no effect on surrounding wells?
They can also explain to you too how they came about with this calculation, Mr. Polito can't go 5 feet No, above the water table.
They're, I mean, they've been more than willing to answer
Yeah,
any
Mr.
of our
Clancy,
questions. So,
Sounds like a good
I mean,
idea.
you can even contact them yourself.
Well, I don't want to do that. I want
But,
the board
you
to.
know,
No,
And
I
get
think-
in writing, you know, how they came up with that.
Okay,
That, no, it's not gonna be an
Yeah.
issue.
okay,
If it helps you, it's page 3 of the permit that talks about
okay.
the floor, so to speak, on the borings.
Yeah, we understand about the borings. Okay.
It's just a
We just want to
process.
know how the methodology used by them in determining that there would be no effect on neighboring wells.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, what else? I know, you're probably gonna shoot me, right? I'm
No, that's
sorry. I just wanna make sure we get everything addressed, like what the laundry list is, so.
No, it's a good idea. I think the other thing that's been brought up is noise analysis. I know a noise analysis was done for the equipment operating on the site, but it occurred to me that one of the big concerns is the noise of the trucks barreling down as they leave the site and going in front of all the neighbors. And
I
how do
don't
we?
think it's a barreling, right? So, we talked about this the other day, because I even said to Chris, I was like, forgive my ignorance, but I don't drive a
Yeah.
commercial truck, so, so I went out there myself and did the distance, so it's not that far, it's good.
Yeah, it's hard to get a truck to go in a quarter mile. To get up to 60 miles an hour, it ain't gonna happen.
right.
Especially load,
They're-
especially load.
Yeah, it'd be good to measure the noise, though. I mean, that seems to be a big
Well,
concern.
that was done by the DEC in their permit analysis. They established that using the type of machines that Mr. Polito would be using, that he's still 2 points below the decibel range that
That was for the equipment operating on
But
the
they-
excavation.
but they
I don't
take-
think they did
part
that.
of everything.
Pardon me?
They actually take the noise level of the traffic on 104
Yeah.
and they use that with it to figure out, because you gotta use. you
Yeah,
gotta
the
come up with
ambient
a
traffic
base.
that's there now, but not when we get the trucks, the 10 trucks an hour filled with gravel.
You can
How
actually,
much noise is that going to generate?
and maybe that's something else that can be directed to the DEC in addition to the water question, because again, this pulls from their report, their permit, saying that noise is not going to be an issue.
Yeah, but I'm saying they were not looking at the
I think
trucks.
they-
No, they were,
have that.
they were.
Not, they were using the ambient, what was there now.
I'm going to suggest perhaps that that be addressed directly with DEC, because I have a feeling that that would really clarify your question for you.
You know, we got the, negative declaration from the DEC. Did we actually get any final report from the DEC that covered everything in there?
With that, that
Yeah.
was it, their negative deck was it. The only thing we've gotten is the comments, the response.
Mhm, That they responded to.
All right.
That's it, I haven't gotten anything else.
And the permit.
In the permit, it does say negative, I didn't read that in there, so, okay.
So are you going to be able to ask the DEC that question then?
Yes,
Have you got that?
I wrote down enough notes and I'm going to contact both of you two to make sure I've got down what you
Yeah,
want.
maybe before you send the letter out, just email us a copy so we, in case.
Well, do you have some more?
I'm just looking through what else. The noise, the water analysis, truck safety. We may want to, this is not for the DEC, but we may want to also do a property analysis. Get from the tax assessor what is the value of, what the tax value of the current, the property the way it is, and after it goes into full operation, what would the taxes be? And
Well-
also,
Well, assessment, you
full
mean.
assess, what would be?
That was brought up before.
That was requested.
And I talked
at the
to,
last meeting.
Yeah.
There should be
I talked to-
20 minutes.
Yeah, it was.
Excuse me.
Speak out of line here. I'm
Excuse
sorry.
me.
Yes, that was requested.
I talked to Lisa, or
Leslie?
Leslie. She confirmed what was said here,
Which is what?
that the assessment will not change. It only will change if buildings are put on the property. Everything that is below ground is not taken into consideration for the assessment. So the assessment's not going to change
Okay.
unless they put buildings there.
So that is probably in the minutes here for the
Yeah.
last.
Under privilege of the floor.
Okay. Oh. I see Brian Soper out there, and I thought I have some scenarios to run by you, Brian, because I'm still gray on the roads.
Ask away.
Not the intersections per se with the travel thing, and I know he's gonna do something, you know, with the curbing and all that jazz. Somewhere I read today or yesterday. There was a letter from one of the highway people, I'm not sure which one, and saying you would work on lowering the speeds.
It's been petitioned to the state and it's in the state's hands now.
Okay, so that's what you have to do with that. And that's on what roads? Which one did you petition the
That's-
state?
They petition, actually, what has to happen is somebody has to petition the town, and the town has to petition the county, and the county has to petition the state, because we're not a big enough town to set speed limits. You have to have, there's a threshold there, which we're not anywhere near. So the county, we petitioned the county for Popel Road and Sanford Road, from Sand Hill to 38 on Popel,
Okay,
and all of Sanford Road.
okay.
So anywhere where his proposed truck route is according to, you know, what has been discussed in the past, you know, that section.
Okay.
George Weddy from the county requested a 45-mile-an-hour zone. And he believes, his personal feeling was with, if the mine goes into, you know, operation, depending on if he gets going before they get the whole traffic study done that they're doing for that, because there's a, you know, they have to do a traffic study and all that other stuff for the state. He feels that they might even lower it lower than 45, maybe 35 to 40 is what he's thinking, that he's seen in his experience in the past.
And again, that would affect Sanford
And
and
Popel
Popel.
to Sand Hill,
to see-
which, whether there's a mine there or not, it's an area that should have that type of a reduction anyway.
Why is that?
George Weddy.
I'm sorry, why
What?
do you think it should have it reduced anyway? You said even if there isn't a mine,
It's
it should be
been
reduced?
a request of local people for quite some time on that road, but there was never enough drive behind it to get the county to do the petitioning. But with this process that we went through, I don't know, we had a meeting months ago with all the highway departments, and that's one of the results that came out of it. I mean,
So that would be all along Sanford Road and Popel to Sand Hill? Those two stretches?
yes, them stretches.
And that's all that's in the town of Sterling?
No, that's in Town of Victory. Town of Victory also petitioned
Okay,
at the
both
same time.
Victory and Sterling.
Sterling, we all petitioned at the same time to the county. And the county.
Okay,
It was a combined effort.
so again, that's a hurry up and wait thing. You got all the
Exactly.
stuff in, now you gotta find out.
You gotta wait back from the state, the engineers, when they have time and to do what they gotta do.
Okay.
What's the width of Sanford Road?
20 foot.
20 feet?
Someone said it should be 22 feet.
Well, according to the federal guidelines for building local roads, which all of ours are class 9 roads, with the exception of Old State, which is an 8, that means there's the average of 400 cars or less a day on it, traveling. It only needs to require to be, according to the federal guidelines, to be 9-foot wide lanes, which is 18 feet. So we're already a foot wider than what needs to be. And if we jumped up to the class of 400 to 1,500 cars per day, it only has to be 10 foot, which already is. That's why we build our roads to 20 feet when we rebuild them. Most of our roads are 16 to 18 before we rebuild them.
And then when you rebuild them, you make them 20,
20, correct.
anticipating population growth.
The federal government won't fund us if we don't make them 20 feet.
And how wide is a dump truck?
8 foot, unless they're over width.
With or without mirrors?
What was the question?
It's a good
Without
question.
mirrors.
Would those be
Good question.
factory installed mirrors?
Yeah, I
Dump
think
truck is like the cat with the whiskers, the mirrors are the whiskers.
8 foot. The widest is 102, which is 8'6".
And how wide is a school bus?
8 foot.
So 8 and 8 is 16. That means you have 4-foot clearance.
Mirrors.
You're not taking into account the mirrors.
Well, I guess I could give you the example that I think you and I have already discussed on the telephone. If there's an issue with trucks and school buses passing each other, how do we plow our roads? Seeing as how we're actually 2 foot wider than the 8 foot limit to begin with, the left side of our trucks. And we have no problems passing school buses. We do it every day.
The snow plows are 10 feet wide?
We're 10 feet wide on the head rig, yes. They're actually 11 foot, but they're a little at an angle.
And the blade can be angled.
No.
No
Okay,
comments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anything? Okay, now, Brian, all right, here's some scenarios for you.
I know. You know, I'm not the one wired.
Really, one of the remarks and some of the, are the, the gravel and the mess that are on the roads from the trucks.
Okay.
What happens if, number one, I'm not, once a truck, if it's not yours, if it's somebody else who's getting the gravel from you, leaves and they're on Sanford Road,
I'm responsible, I know where you're going.
yeah, I want to know who's responsible until until 104 you're responsible or what? How does that work?
He's actually responsible till that hits the job site. If I'm
Oh, okay.
in the DEC side,
Yes.
Responsible for what?
Gravel and anything. off the
Gravel.
bed.
So if a truck came out and went down and all of a sudden, I don't know, the back end opened and you got this spill, which I mean, I can imagine.
That's why he has insurance.
I was gonna say, I'm getting and, okay, so that there's, all right. And somebody, or I'm going down there and I'm saying, oh my God, there's a spill. What do you call, 911?
No,
Do
I
I
go
call
with-
Brian? How do you?
If it's
well, I'm
on
pretty
Sanford
sure I'll
Road
be
or
the
Fulton,
second person to know.
Oh, okay.
I'm fairly confident of that.
And that's, now, all right, so, what's the line, what do we do? What do citizens do if, or there's a big
What do
couple
they
of
usually
rocks
do?
there or
Whether it's
something?
our roads or not, they call me and complain about
Okay, and then
he calls me.
you call
it. And I
him.
go clean it
But
up
usually-
because I
The
have.
town shouldn't be cleaning it
No,
up though, right?
I've had it happen before.
Okay, and that's,
Tough.
But
Why
usually,
should we
the
put
truck,
cleaning it
if,
up?
if the truck drivers will call you and say, this truck just dumped rocks all over the road,
Needs to get it cleaned up.
I take a loader up there, or I go up there, I've done it.
Okay.
And you clean the rocks out.
okay,
Something gets hurt.
That's, and usually you'll get a phone call from the highway guy as you're cleaning them up.
okay.
It's typical, and it happens. It
No,
does
I'm
happen,
sure, I mean, yeah, even if there's a cover, but I just want, I wondered what, it was a bit gray in my mind as to what, but all right, so it's either Brian to you, or else you hear right away.
I will probably hear before he hears,
Uh-huh.
honestly. Usually, a truck driver will call you and tell you, or another truck will let you know.
Now, Brian, you just mentioned that you would probably be there cleaning it up, what were you?
If there's anything in the road and somebody makes me aware of it, the town is then liable to take care of it, whether it belongs to anybody else in this room. Obviously, I will be going to
Yeah.
him
Yeah,
with a bill.
yeah,
But yes, once I've been put on notice, which that is,
Yeah.
our insurance kicks in and it's then my hide. So yes, we will be cleaning it up.
okay,
And the thing is he might not know about it, his driver might not know about it.
Right.
It might be a passerby or a
Yep.
neighbor,
yep,
and
And it might be too late.
it happens, and it just,
it is,
It is what it
there's just so much,
Yeah.
yes, there's just so much you can control with that.
Yeah.
And that's
But
why
just-
everybody has insurance.
I mean, it's no different than the wind blowing a tree down the road.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, all right.
Would you typically be on site on a
Mhm.
daily basis?
Yeah.
And your permit, I noticed, is for 5 years And it's on phase 1A. Are you gonna be in the process of trying to get the permit through the DEC? Does DEC have to go through all this again? Does everybody have to all this again to get into your next
No,
phase?
No.
All right, and so you get this, and you got it for the 1A, 5 years, renewable every year, did they say you had to touch, or was that, it was 5 years?
It's a 5-year, it's actually 20-year permit.
Yeah.
With a 5 years and you renew it.
Okay. Now, that just said 1A, phase 1A on there.
That's what I'm bonded for, that amount.
Okay, so you haven't even, in 5 years, then you'll be renewing it for 1B,
I don't know.
or not?
I can't, I
You
don't know
don't know?
honestly. I mean, I can't predict the future.
Ah,
I mean,
okay.
yeah, if
All right.
all the gravel's gone in 1A in a year, or 10 years, that's when you go to phase 2, or
All right.
1B. And before I go to 1B, I have to, the DEC comes out and they'll set the bond for that amount. I have to get a bond, and then it's a process, then they approve me to go into 1B.
And all the bonds that you've gotten, or said you will get for, the roads and all that, can we get copies of those bonds and the wording or whatever? Can you let us know, or do we have that already? A list of all the bonds that you're gonna,
It's the 2, which I'm not gonna get until I get approved. obviously,
right.
You know,
right. But you're
it's
gonna
just
get
a
your
letter from
bond
them.
for
That's
roads. The bond for roads victory, right?
Yeah.
Did they, that was the highway department, one of them.
Yeah, you have their letters that states.
Yes, that is one of them. What's the other bond
County.
money, or Cuba County?
Yeah,
And then there's
Okay.
what we call a reclamation bond.
Oh, okay, it's the
yeah,
reclamation.
I do have that,
Okay,
because I have the permit, so I had to have that.
all right.
That's through the DEC.
Is that written anywhere? Do
It's
we
in
have
its
that?
permit application.
Yeah.
It's in the, all right,
Yeah.
all right.
And then you have one for the road preservation for still.
Yeah,
This is just some of my thoughts for when we have any kind of a workshop, where we gotta make sure agencies and bonds, okay. DEC correspondence, the 5-year site plan review.
I think it also would be important to establish what are the set of oversight tasks that we're going to have, if this mine goes through, that we as a town are going to have to do to make sure that it complies with all our stipulations. And how much are these going to cost, and who's going to pay for them? It's not free. Somebody goes out and does something, so you've got to figure out.
Like,
what that is.
can you give me an example?
Like if we have a problem with the gravel coming off the truck, somebody's gonna monitor that, and who's gonna do that, who's gonna take care of it? The borings, if we gotta have to send somebody out to witness something, or, I don't know what this, I haven't thought it through enough, but there will likely be a set of oversight activities involved to make sure that things
And
are.
that could be any special use permit, that could be all part of our conditions.
Yeah, but what I'm
This
saying is,
will be-
that if it turns out it's something the town has to do and expend money doing,
Okay.
it shouldn't be something the town has to come out of the town's pocket.
That makes sense, and I
Okay.
think that's implied in anything that a municipality does anyways, in conjunction with a project site. I just don't, I just am thinking what specifically, I know it's.
I don't
so
have a,
broad.
yeah, I don't know enough about it to have a
Right.
specific thing, but I just, the red flag's kind of going off that there's a lot of issues here, and that we're going to have to be tracking a lot of different things, and who's doing it, and,
Well, we're going to attach special conditions to the permit, more than likely, right?
Yes, once you
And
go
it's-
through the permit the DEC did, they're all special conditions. One question I had is that if we should put those exact same ones on us, on our, or if that's redundant, or if we don't have to do it, that's a legal question. I had that for the attorney.
Usually you attach what they do, but yes, ask Mr. Cox.
You know?
Yes, yeah, I
It's
agree
like,
with
you
you.
know,
Right, because you
So-
want to do this, you want to mirror what DEC's doing.
Right.
To protect you, but
And that
Mr.
was a
Cox can tell you the same thing.
legal question that I
Yeah,
had.
I'm just giving you.
Like one of the
friendly-
conditions could be the trucks can't go north on Sanford Road. Well, how do you know they're not doing that?
Well, the special conditions are enforced by the CEO, the code enforcement
Yes,
officer.
yes.
Now,
They may be beyond his capability in some cases. I don't know.
Well, I think he can tell which way a truck's going.
Yeah. But he has to spend that. He has to spend time sitting there.
Right, but
Complete driven,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
you know, if there's an issue with trucks going to
The
the
neighbors will
hamlet,
say something.
and
They will
that's
call.
not
Oh, yeah,
allowed,
I'm sure the
then,
neighbors would.
yes, it will definitely be complaint driven, so.
but I didn't know that we could charge the special permit owner for the cost of the CEO to inspect them.
I don't think,
Being paid for.
I,
You can do
that's something
anything you want.
Mr. Cox and
Yeah.
you can discuss, because there is a line between what's encompassed in somebody's employment that's reasonable per their employment and what's the above and beyond. I'll give you an example of the above and beyond. There is a terrible fire and it's wildly out of control. That's above and beyond. You know, especially if it's arson. That's something that gets billed to a project owner. But for someone to do a stop by just to make sure everything is compliant, it's no different if you were building a house and your code officer goes out just to make sure, okay, that wiring looks good, great, we're on schedule, get this buttoned up, looks good. You're not charging your homeowner for that, that's part of somebody's job. You know, you're not asking for something that doesn't sound above and beyond, that extraordinary thing. Just something to
Yeah, and they
regular
very well be, I don't know what the set of oversight activities are. That's what I'm saying, we have to figure out what those set are that we have to do, and then who's gonna do it?
Right.
And how much is it gonna cost? And if the CEO can do it all in a day's work, that's one thing. If we have to hire a geologist or somebody else, or, you know, then that's something else.
I'll have to ask the attorney that when we get to that point.
Oh, when we get, yeah, but I'm saying that's something we gotta keep in mind. Because
Keep it on your list.
a lot of times, you know, we've got to give them, what are the benefits to the town? I haven't seen it quite yet, of this project. And part of what we're doing in the planning board when we issue a special permit is we're looking at, is this to the good of the town? And you weigh the positives against the negatives. Okay. Some developers, or, you know, when they're doing a planned development district, they provide a forever green area for the residents. And, you know, that allows them to get special consideration for smaller lots. And so there are things that are done to benefit the town in order for a project to proceed. And there may be things we want to look into.
Okay, I'm just, again, just trying to get an idea of timing. Is that something that's done internally with all of you, with Mr. Cox? How does this work? I'm just trying to keep the momentum going forward for this application.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just
That's fair.
bringing it up.
I don't know either. That's what I was asking.
And see, those are all questions and things like, you know, that we've got to decide it.
Before we go forward with the special permit, what are the benefits to the town of doing this? And what are the detriments? What is the pros and what are the cons? That's what we're going to be looking at when we make the decision.
We still have to, I mean, as we do this whole review, we've still got to do a site plan review. We've got to go line by line, our laws that are in our land use regulations, line by line, check off, make sure we have everything, but just that's how we'll be doing it. Review all the DEC comments in the seeker, review on the permit. We're going to look through all that. Comprehensive plan, we've got to look at that. Land use regulations, we could review them all. It says special use permit, site plan, and the use table, just so that it's all, yes, it is a use here in the town with a special permit. Make sure that's all in. oversight, like the town of Sterling and the DEC, the oversight, make sure that's clear, which I mentioned before. And Cuyahoga County Planning, we gotta look at that letter and see what their objections were and why we think yes, that's right, or no, or whatever.
Yeah, and I kind of forget, in that letter, they said something about if we were to approve it,
Yep,
that we had to do what? We had to have,
Super majority.
but we also had to have some documentation
You have to
of what?
reply, you have to send a letter to each one of their points, that you're agreeing with which ones and the ones that you're not
Yeah.
will
Why?
disagree.
you have to make your case for that. This all has to be done. And what the facts are, mining is permitted in the town of Sterling. It is a permitted use. It says right in the land use regulations.
No, I don't think it says it like that. It says,
Yes, it's with a special permit.
it's not permitted in hamlets and water district, and it's permitted in agriculture with a special use permit.
Right. So, yeah, that's exactly how it's permitted. So it's a permitted use with a special permit and a site plan.
Right. It
Right,
requires a
on
site
that chart. And my concerns were the roads, which we talked about, the maintenance of the roads, and noise. And the, truck accident liability responsibility, but we already talked about that, so. But the noise and the extra, that is a concern. Those are just my issues that I brought up. It's just mine alone, nobody else's. But those are all things that will float up and be there for when we have a workshop or go over everything.
Would it be of use if perhaps during this time period while the gap analysis and traffic study is being done, that Mr. Ferlito addresses these items in writing to you, so that way you have it, just something to refer to?
More information, the
Yes.
better.
Yes, anything that will cut to the chase, so,
Very well.
yeah, be prepared, and any legal questions too, we'll get off to our attorney there, so that that is done. At least we, yes, get a response to those concerns. Did they make sense to you?
Yes, I follow you. Thank you.
Anybody else have any?
I think another thing that's very important to address in this is conservation of property values, that we're supposed to, that our land use regulations say that one of the intent of the regulations is to do that, and that is one of my concerns with this particular project, that it's going to impact negatively the property values of the people around it. And what do we do about that? What's our answer on that?
So who would be Leslie that would be the one to write and say,
I could ask her.
how, what would you say? I don't know if you can say positive or negative. I don't know what the assessor,
I mean, we've been given.
who else would you go to except
Well,
for
we've
Leslie?
been given a report, and I don't know of any other studies, but it says that property values decrease by 20% if you're within a half-a-mile radius.
Yeah, I could clarify that. That example came from a mine that I believe is 238 acres big in Delaware County, Ohio, which is a whole different bracketing. But if you were to do the mathematical pro rata distribution of the math, I think it only impacts the average homeowner about $200 if you were to
I
buy
doubt
that
it.
formula.
I doubt
Yeah,
it.
I did the math. I'll give you my math, I swear. But that's just using averages of homeowners in the area, what their assessment is.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I looked up that,
That Delaware, Ohio,
yeah,
it's a huge mine. It's bigger than the one out by Buffalo.
Yeah.
That's a completely different.
What kind of a mine is it?
gravel,
Gravel.
And I think
250 acres.
on-site milling facility.
It's 20 miles north of Columbus, Ohio.
Okay,
It's about a mile and a half from a town of 35,000 people. So it's in a much more populated, higher density area. So
Read Professor Height's letter.
I got that from my own
Give her a
observation.
call.
Okay. June,
Well, this is something that Sue mentioned once before, and I do think this kind of relates to everything that's been said tonight and some of the comments that Sue has made, that as one of our requirements for a special use permit is it in the best interest of the town, the convenience of the community, the public welfare, and be a substantial improvement to the property in the immediate vicinity. So this is something that we have to look at in order to grant a special permit. So this is something that maybe, you know, when you're saying to us, you can make comments to our concerns and our questions.
Right.
This is something that maybe you can relate to.
We actually had prepared these concerns, addressing formally these concerns last month, so it wouldn't be
Okay.
too much for us
Okay.
to change the date
Okay.
and formally
All right.
give it to you. But
Okay,
we've already
good.
done that homework.
Great. Perfect.
Yeah, the paragraph before that is the one that talks about, can you maybe look at it again?
Absolutely.
It talks about improving the value of adjacent properties.
Enhancement. It's to buy all this.
I saw that, last time, Sue, you mentioned to them that they needed to address
yeah, I
that.
said to make,
Where did you get
said
that?
make your case.
What paragraph?
That was the number one. That was number one there. This is, I was
Oh,
going.
yeah, and be a substantial improvement to property in the immediate vicinity. You know, when I read that, I was trying to think of what could come into the town of Sterling
That would do that.
that would do that.
I know. And you see that all over the health, wealth, you see that all over everything.
I can't think of anything
I
that,
know.
can you think?
What? That would improve the value?
Yeah,
If you had a nice housing development going, with good value houses, a lake.
Live next door to housing development. So it's all entertainment.
Right, with increased traffic and da-da-da and all
They want to live
that.
in the country, they don't want to live near housing development.
But that, I mean, that,
the whole statement is that kind of at cross purposes.
yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, because you do look at it and think, okay, what would do that?
A hospital.
I mean, if you had,
Hospital, doctor's office.
no, then you have the increasing traffic, parking,
Doesn't make a ton of noise.
Cemetery,
yeah, cemetery.
church.
A nice park.
Might run the water to go down to.
Everything they said so far is
Well, if you want to offer some
Yes, that's right.
encouragement or explanation or examples, feel free.
A nice park with walking trails and
I
a
mean,
lake.
not for nothing, but you do have a reclamation bond at the end of the day. So there, and the DEC calls this out, and it's permit that, you know, what this is going to look like at the end of the day. Something to keep in mind.
Sterling's next park.
Anything else?
I know there was mentions of perhaps a workshop or a special get-together. Did you want to think about setting a date now, or do you want to see where all this information comes into play and see if that's needed at that time?
I think probably since you're going to be out for it, maybe we ought to get the information and then come up with a date.
Easier. We don't know when the information will be
Yeah.
available.
Okay.
I need 2 weeks in order to get it in the paper, so.
We'd have to be really ready for that workshop because it'll be in the evening and it can't go on for 7 hours, you know?
I'll bring coffee.
Yeah.
Vodka, gin, wine.
And it's a meeting then of just everybody having going over the, it's, having like this, having questions and let's, try and resolve it or whatever.
But we're expecting to get something back from DEC, we're expecting to get the traffic analysis, and we're saying, what's about the time frame for both of those things?
I think DEC are at the mercy of DEC.
Yes.
No, they've been pretty
I'll get a
quick.
letter from DEC very quick.
And I'll call
Plus
too,
the
just say,
traffic study
please.
is gonna be.
Traffic study is probably going to be the long pole.
Right,
That's
2
not how-
3 weeks, I anticipate that.
Now, if we had a workshop, could we go through the laws line by line in each one and see exactly what yes, we're satisfied, we got that information. Go through we gotta do the site plan and everything. Can we utilize time to do that and then wait on that highway piece?
Well, in my opinion,
what?
I think we ought to have the public hearing and close the public hearing and then meet and go over everything. What's the sense of going over everything now, have a public hearing and a lot of other issues be brought up?
Well, the public can come to the working session.
Yeah, but not a hearing. Once
But
the
it's a work
hearing is
session.
closed, then we decide based on what we've heard.
So wait, what are you saying now? You do the hearing first and
Yeah.
then do the working session?
Yeah, that would be my opinion.
I'm wondering what new information would be provided though at the public hearing. That was my question. Because, we've been going through,
Yeah.
this has been going on since
Yeah,
January.
I think
How many
we better do the
public
working
hearings
session
have we
first.
had on this?
Just one.
Well,
Just
just
the
one, and
one
we just,
Because of the old plan.
Yeah, but every
changed
time
it.
we've met, we've had.
right.
Yes.
comments.
We've had public
So-
comments, so,
Yeah, but we need to officially close the
Yeah.
public hearing. And we can't close a public hearing until they've exhausted what they want to say. So why don't we schedule a public hearing for the next meeting? Get it over with, and
But
then we can
then, but
decide.
then why would we have a work session?
To me, a work session is just determining what you're gonna do.
Yeah, formulate what you want your conditions to be.
and to formulate our questions,
Yeah.
in case we have more questions.
Right.
And,
But once you close the public hearing,
yeah, I
you
would,
can't
I
ask
think,
for more information.
yeah, I think you gotta do the,
You
You
can't,
can't ask for more information from them after the public hearing has been closed.
From the powers that be out there, anybody that we've gotten letters and stuff from the attorney,
I
from
don't believe
DEC.
you can.
Oh,
I don't believe I can. You can ask Kevin. But that's always been the reason why we've held them open,
Yeah.
to allow more information to come in.
why don't we jot Kevin a question, there's another question for Kevin. Well, can we do this, can we have can we,
yeah, what's the
Yeah.
appropriate sequence of
Yeah.
events?
I know we want to do a workshop to compile everything, which we've been working on for, I don't know, a year or so. Yeah, and if we can have the public hearing and then just close it and then make our decision and then the next meeting is our decision,
Okay,
how does that work?
all right. I'll email you guys, CC you and that,
Okay.
so you get it all. You'll get my question to him and his response.
Okay?
Okay. Right. So we're waiting for information from DEC and from the traffic analysis and Kevin about the process.
Sequence of events.
Mhm.
Will he be at the workshop, your attorney?
We could certainly invite him.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would think that'd be a good idea.
I believe he has all intentions of being there.
Because there'll be questions,
Yeah,
we
he
can come up
can
with
answer
some
right there.
ahead of time.
I just can't answer your particular
No,
request. I'm so
right.
sorry. I know the answers. I wish I could help you, but I just can't tell you. Sorry.
He's planning on being there. We just have to let him know when the meetings are going to be.
Special meeting or the hearing, yeah, whenever, he should be here, whatever, both of them, or whatever,
Yep.
yeah. From here on, I would think,
He would have been here tonight, but we weren't doing anything that would
Right.
require him to be here.
right?
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Let's do our minutes. Okay.
reader's permit to on the owner. Did you have to see that?
Did you just see that?
Yes.
Okay, I can get you copies of that.
I've got that. I have that. I'm gonna do this.
Fourth page, number 3, Carolyn Waterman, is where you guys talked about the property values. It is in there. On the fourth page.
Oh, it's in the minutes.
Carolyn Waterman, what you guys were talking about, the property values, is it?
I'm sorry, fourth page of what?
Page here.
The information about the property values.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't had a chance to
We don't have to
look at
approve
this.
that
I
tonight.
was gonna say something. Wait, can we do because there's a lot.
Give us all a chance to read. But I'm still not sure what you were trying to say
Well, you
about.
guys were talking about the property values being brought up at the last meeting.
Yeah.
And I was just pointing out where they were in the minutes.
Oh, yeah,
That's all.
she's requested the actual assessment value of the property. I was just wondering what the tax, if the taxes were gonna change. She's saying that, mostly saying the taxes are not gonna change, but I guess she was requesting the actual assessment value of the property. Did we get that?
No,
Did we get that?
I didn't ask, but I haven't talked to Leslie.
Yeah, we could probably
But we
find that
can,
out.
yes.
Yeah, I think that'd be good, and
I've got that down here to do that.
What were they saying?
I don't know, that's it. He said, really
For that section that you guys were talking about, if it changes the values, it's just what Leslie's saying. The last word.
Yeah, can we wait and let us chew on this?
Yeah,
There's quite a bit there. Okay.
The next meeting.
so we're gonna wait those till next week.
I think so. Is there a sign-in sheet?
Yes.
I think we should. We need to know what he's going to be.
Mr. Keeley?
Mr. Keeling?
Steve Keel. Couple things you mentioned about buildings to make things better. They all need gravel, and it has to come from somewhere. And a permitted mine would be better than some outlaw mine where a contractor just goes in and digs without any oversight. You know, they can dig right next to the creek, under the creek, no thought of neighbors, wells, none of that. So, a permitted mine is gonna have a ton of oversight. So that'll help the community, I think, getting gravel there. No, that's good for now. Thank you.
Okay. Robin Allinger?
Robin Allinger, I live on Sanford Road. I was just wanting to ask another question about the water usage for dust control especially. I understand that this operation will be pulling from the current well that's in the old mine area. Is that true?
is that true?
Right, that's where you're going to get from the well that Vern was talking about.
Okay, and the access road to get to the water source, will that be coming from your new entrance?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have an estimate of how much water that you might pull out of there on a daily basis based on 10 to 20 trucks per hour going in and out?
First of all, let me address the 10 to 20 trucks per hour. I mean, when I first purchased this property from Steve, my intentions were...
My mother.
My intentions were to sell gravel to the Onondaga Lake project. That project is gonna be over in May, all right? So I've already missed the boat on that pretty much. So I think the 10, if I could get 10 to 20 trucks an hour, I mean, it'd be another job like that, which I think that's kind of a once in a lifetime deal if it's ever happened. So I don't, if I get 10 trucks a day, I think I'll be doing good, honestly. But besides that, I guess, you know, you use water when it's dry. So if we have a really dry season, you know, we're gonna be mining so far in the back that the only dust that is really gonna be a concern is gonna be from the trucks. So, I mean, I can't give you an estimate on how much water I'm gonna use. I mean, I have a 2,000 gallon water truck. I think I've used it 2 times this summer. I gotta empty it, just because where we were mining was, again, it's kind of the same situation. We're so far back, so.
Well,
I don't know if that answers your question, but it's not like I'm gonna use hundreds of thousands of gallons of water. You know,
That's what was mentioned in the DEC.
I don't think they put a number in there. They mentioned that I will be using the water on site for that.
Well, it
so.
was suggested 1,500 to 2,000 gallons a day, but then I saw a much bigger number in the DEC report. And the reason I'm asking
We're not gonna
is,
use 2,000 gallons a day, because there's many days, I mean, Rod works with me. There's many days we don't use water, I mean, because you don't need to.
You have to wash your roads.
I mean, anytime you use water, the problem is when you got dust and you use a water truck, then the mud carries onto the road. So what we've used, we've sprayed calcium to help with the dust, so that way you don't have to use water, because that helps keep the dust down, and it really works. Because once you start using the water, then it attracts mud into the road. So now you gotta wash the road. So you're always trying to play catch up with the road and the dust. So there's other methods that you'll use, you know. I mean, there is times where you have to use water because it is that dry.
Or it's raining and the truck is tracking it.
Or it's raining and the truck and the mud is in the roads, you know. But again, that all goes back to if you're hauling 100 trucks a day. And honestly, that it ain't gonna happen. I mean, I'm hoping to sell material to local towns and private, you know, and if there's a big job, then obviously you're gonna go for it, but that's never happened before.
Like the Lego Casino.
Like the what?
The Lego Casino. Entire.
That's.
We're not gonna travel that far.
You're gonna truck this stuff.
I mean, I don't know if that answers your questions or
well,
helps.
I'm asking mainly just because my well is like directly across from the mine well. Mine is a little bit lower according to the topographical maps. My area is a little bit lower. There's also a pretty good suggestion that the water source is the same for both of ours, because when mine was dug, I dirtied the water temporarily in the mine. So if they're pulling a great quantity of water out, are they going to drain my well? Because it can be done.
Maybe, yeah.
Stanley Gay used to haul water out of that well. All summer long, he'd take 10 to 15 loads a day out of it. So he did that for years. So.
And he also told me that there was one time that Charlie Stone was in an area and he had to stop pulling water because it silted up so bad. He
Yeah.
couldn't use it to fill swimming pools.
In the spring, yeah. Sometimes in the spring, it does get a little cloudy, yeah.
Well, that might be something we can put in that letter to DEC. If there's a well right across the street, you know, what's the rate at which the water's gonna be consumed, and could that impact?
That's right.
Okay, Dolores Welch?
Yes. That's me.
Okay.
I'd like to see a little more concern for the people that live there myself, because I live just down the road from where he wants his exit and entrance driveway. I live not very far down the road from there. All those trucks that leave and come back will be going right by my house. And don't tell me I'm not gonna hear the noise. I don't care how many trees there are around. And I would like to know how this is gonna benefit us, because it's not gonna benefit us. How is it gonna benefit us? Tell me, Steve.
The gravel for your house came out of there.
So? Then you're talking, if you would have left it at a simple little gravel bed with maybe 40 loads a year going out of it, there wouldn't even be a problem and we wouldn't be going through all this. But because he comes along with big bucks, yeah, go ahead and laugh, because I know.
Okay, thank you.
And you're the only ones that are invested in this. Rod because he works for him because he's got the money, you're getting the money, and he has property down there too.
Okay, thank you.
And we're selling to Becker.
Well, I'd just like to respond to that and tell you that we are concerned about the neighbors, and that is going to...
You're the only one I hear saying anything about. What about us? What about the noise? As far as I'm concerned, that whole zoning thing shouldn't have even went through because there's 5 criteria. He sat right there in red. 5 criterias for that to pass, and he did not get 5 of them. One had to do with the people living nearby, and I do believe it's going to lower our taxes.
I mean, your property values.
Our values.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, I forgot to get on the sign-in sheet there.
Your name?
Yeah, it's
Please.
Jeff Couperis. I didn't realize I had to, I missed it. Thanks.
Ms. Fisher?
I'll give my time to him, and I'll come at the end.
Yeah, I live just down the road from her, about 600 feet south of the entrance. And they're proposing all the trucks now coming and going, past our houses up and down that hill, which to say it's not going to be noisy, I don't understand that. But I have kind of a prepared statement. I'll just read it to you real quick.
Okay.
At the last ZBA meeting, Mr. Lemon stated that all the issues I brought up regarding safety, quality of life, and property value should be addressed to the planning board, not the ZBA. So I just ask that, you review all the information I emailed and everything. And I have another copy I can give you. I don't want to repeat all that.
We got it.
What else did I have? Since I haven't seen any numbers on the current traffic on Sanford Road now, and we keep talking about how much of a change this is going to be, but nobody really knows what it is. I collected some data on existing traffic in front of my house using a security camera and fast forwarding through videos counting cars. I don't have the equipment normally used for this, and counting the cars is time consuming and cumbersome, so I only have data for Thursday 10/1 and Friday 10/2 last week. For the current number of cars and trucks that use the road now, I recorded video from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Thursday and 7 to 5 Friday, roughly the operating hours. It should give a rough idea of what kind of traffic is on the road and how much it'll increase. When I prepared this, I didn't know about him only doing 1 truck a day and all that, but you have to look at it like he's telling us that he's going to load 10 trucks an hour. Worst case, he could do that for 4 years. Unless you put a stipulation in the permit that says, we're going to hold you to 1 or 2 trucks a day, we have to consider it 10. I don't know how you can, because he can do what he wants, so. Anyway, on Thursday from 8 to 5, there were 84 total vehicles. They were all cars or pickup trucks except for 5 school buses. On Friday, there were 120 total vehicles. 108 of them were cars or pickup trucks, 7 were school buses, and 4 were smaller trucks like UPS and delivery trucks. 1 was a dump truck. There were no tractor trailers on either day. Over the 2 days with 19 hours of monitoring, it averaged out to 10.7 vehicles per hour, with the vast majority of them cars. With the current mining plan discussed at the ZBA meeting, up to 10 trucks per hour will be loaded, and they will enter and exit on the same stretch of road by my house, which doubles it now on the south end of Sanford Road. That's a total of 20 trailer trucks per hour coming or going. The total number of vehicles that drive past any houses south of the mine to Route 38 will increase from 10.7 an hour to 30.7 an hour. That is a 186% increase in traffic. That's counting cars the same as trucks. There are no trucks now. And I can put together a raw video if anyone wants it, but the numbers are fairly accurate unless I missed 1 or 2 watching the tape. In the minutes for the April ZBA meeting, it was noted with no supporting facts that the traffic impact would be minimal because traffic has been increasing for the last 10 years anyway. I don't know where that came from or if traffic has increased in 10 years, but this project will almost triple the traffic that is there now, and instead of cars, it will be heavy trucks. This is a significant change to the neighborhood and the current road use, and no one has even officially studied its effects on residents, quality of life, property value, noise, or safety on Sanford or Poplar roads. How can the benefits of the change caused by the permit be weighed against changes to the neighborhood and effects of the neighbors when no one even knows what the changes will be? A large increase in traffic was essentially ignored by the ZBA in its decision. As far as economic impacts on the area versus benefits to the community, I think it's obvious that what the costs are to the neighborhood and people in the area. It'll definitely hurt property values. I don't think anyone can argue with any common sense that a mine near a property and a 186% increase in traffic won't hurt property values. The only question is how much. Grandview residents have stated that their property assessments have lowered since the mine was put in there. When assessments are lowered in this area, that will not only cost residents, it will also cost the town in tax revenue. According to the DEC public response comments with the negative declaration, Sanford Road was paved in anticipation of the mine. If that is correct, that already costed the town money. Let's see. The benefits of the community don't seem as obvious as the costs. I may have missed it, but I haven't seen any official statements on how many jobs this creates or how much tax revenue it generates. In fact, in the original request for variance for the setbacks to the entrance exit, the mine owner stated that he needed the mine because it was too expensive to haul from longer distances. That sounds like cost cutting. Without seeing a business plan, it's hard to say for sure, but normally cutting costs does not add jobs. It has also been stated at previous meetings that the property tax assessment for the mine itself won't increase, so it will not generate additional tax revenue for the town. The only people that it seems to benefit are people directly associated with the mining operation or people that will profit from the sale or use of land around the mine, and that benefit will cost everyone else. You know, they're bringing up gravel, but gravel's a pretty, rare commodity you can get from a lot of places. I don't think that's what they mean by benefit to the community. I think it's more like, you put in an airport and it creates 50 jobs, or a factory of Nestle brings in 200 jobs and it's going to bring an extra, we haven't really heard that argument here. And also, just on the wells real quick, I'm not a hydrologist, I'm not a specialist on that either, but it's obvious that you don't just drill down to 400-foot elevation and hit a big lake of water. Everybody's well would be the same depth. Some wells need to be 100 feet to get 3 gallons a minute, and some need to be 40 feet to get 50 gallons a minute. There's a whole bunch of complicated things going on. I don't know if it'll have an effect on that or not. I don't really know if anybody does, especially without drilling drill holes down the bedrock and doing some real tests, not just digging a 16-foot hole with an excavator bucket. And just lastly, I'd like to ask that if this does get passed and goes through, that all of the other zoning regulations be followed. There's zoning that says no commercial mining deliveries on Saturdays. I've heard mention that there'll be Saturday deliveries, and I don't think they're doing residential, but if they are, I guess they are. I don't know how we know if it's. So I'd like to see some kind of limit on, no trucks on Saturday when kids are home and people want to walk on the road and things like that. And then I don't know if it's possible. I'm not a legal expert, but it seems to me like maybe there should be a process to reissue the permit yearly from the town standpoint or something. Because what if we have a whole bunch of complaints and this is causing everybody problems, and is there a time or place once a year to not do a whole process like they do now, but to look at it and the residents say this is working, or he's driving 50 trucks an hour down the road, or maybe he's only driving 2 and everybody's fine with it. But I guess that was my comments. Thanks.
I just want to address you made some good points about conditions and oversight, and I want to assure people that's a concern of ours, is oversight. We're on top of that. And then you mentioned, and I did read in here, I can't find it now, that the road was redone in anticipation of this.
I just got that off the DEC response comments. I think they mentioned.
And then I saw Brian going like this. So Brian,
I don't know.
Could you address that? Because I read it.
The road was originally scheduled to be rebuilt in 2013, but the town of Sterling didn't have any funding in place to do it with. So then it got pushed off to 2014. And there was no anticipation of a gravel bed being there. The road was rebuilt because it was scheduled in 2013 in coordinates with Town of Victory to do their end also at the same time, because it only makes sense for us to pave a complete road rather than sections and then have Victory come in the next year and want to pave their section. So we had to coordinate and get funding in line to do both roads at the same time, is why it was pushed off to 2014.
So I don't know why the DEC response was different, but maybe it's just wrong.
I'd like to respond to that. When the road was getting redone, because I live on a road, when the road was getting redone, I remember Brian talking to me and my husband and saying that they were doing the road And he mentioned then about the mine coming in. Yes,
I
you did,
mentioned
Brian.
that the property was for sale and that there might be a gravel bed mine.
You said when that gravel bed goes in, Brian, I remember you saying that.
Exactly, it's a gravel bed, I mean, it's not a secret.
When
But that has nothing to do with the choice of the road being
then why did
paved.
you bring it up?
Because apparently you asked, I don't know.
And also to the
Apparently I
DEC.
didn't.
To the DEC, there was a letter written to the DEC assuring them that the quality of the build for the road was adequate for the truck traffic.
Well, the comment said in anticipation of the mine.
Exactly.
It's in the
They
DEC
knew that.
response comment. I don't- Maybe, somebody misquoted it again, but it's in the DEC response comment.
Okay,
So I don't know.
thank you. Mary Watts?
I'm going to defer to the end if I could. I want to hear the other comments, okay?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I didn't sign in. My name is Jim Mignona. My wife and I live on Poplar Road in Victory. I happen to be on the Town of Victory Planning Board. However, I'm here tonight as a concerned member of the community. In this case, the community extends into 2 townships. Prior to building our house in 2002, we lived on a state road for 20 years, and the relentless truck traffic was overwhelming at times. The main reason we built our house where it is because that we wanted to be as far away from that kind of traffic and noise as possible. And I'm sure that most of the people that live on the town roads and the county roads share the same sentiment. I understand the need for a gravel bed. And a mine operation of this magnitude is just wrong for this community. Equally appalling is the fact that you're proposing to divert the traffic from your mine through the town of Victory. Various town of Sterling government bodies have ignored the pleas of the residents of Sterling and Victory in their opposition to this mine. These good people have a lot invested in their homes, far more than Mr. Ferlito has spent so far. The only ones that want this mine there are the ones that stand to gain financially. If this board approves the mine, it will be ruining the lives of dozens of residents of this community for the sake of a few. I would also like to address the safety issue. Some residents have imagined scenarios with regards to dump trucks and school buses. Well, this scenario played out for real last Monday morning in Cato. There was a school bus stopped on Route 34 near the golf course and picking up children. Cars were stopped in both directions. A dump truck with a trailer crested the hill northbound on Route 34 and could not stop. The driver put his dump truck into the opposite shoulder, which stopped the truck, but not the trailer. The trailer came around and hit 2 cars and sent at least 2 people to the hospital. So this can and did happen. And do you board members want to be responsible for when this happens here? I thank you for your time. I hope that common sense and decency will prevail in your decision.
Thank you. All right, that's the end of the list I
Okay,
have.
okay, thanks, I'm ready. If it's okay. One of the things that I asked before was how many mines are right next to a creek, however you want to pronounce it, to make it model, so that I didn't know what effects it would have on our waterways that we have there and what damage it would do. I didn't get a response from that question that I had asked 2 meetings ago. And I can understand safety because of the children that are there. And the proposed reduction in mileage or speed would be something like 45 to 30. Well, you can't get a truck to go fast quickly, but you also can't get it to stop quickly. So maybe the speed needs to be 15 miles or 20 miles in order to get past this area that is populated. And I appreciate the fact that you're considering to put restrictions on the permit, that you would be overseeing it yourselves, because I think that's very important. We heard about Granby and the fact that they just didn't put those kind of restrictions on their permit, and so they lost control because it was then under the DEC's rule as opposed to the town's rule. And I really feel that it's important, and I was glad to hear that you were wanting to put restrictions on it yourselves to be able to oversee that and to have maybe come back through, because if you're not going to be checking the wells of the other people in the community and you don't have any way to do that legally, then you need to be able to review it on a regular basis and not just, and your CEO that you have, his duties, this would be far above and beyond, because we don't have a mine in Sterling at all, and this is above and beyond his normal task, and he's only a part-time person. So how is he going to be able to accomplish that if he's only working, I don't know what he works, but 4 days a week, 3 days, 4 days a day, 4 hours a day, 3 days a week, or whatever it is that he's working. But anyway, I was glad to know that you were going to seriously consider putting restrictions on this, even though it may not be a customary thing that's done with other places, but we can see what what happened in Granby, and I think it's very important that you continue to oversee it on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be monthly, but any reports that the DEC would bring to you should be in your permit restrictions, that it is provided to you, period, without having you have to ask for it. That it should be something that you are going to get regularly as a condition of the permit, as opposed to a voluntary thing done that people forget about afterwards. And that's it for that.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak at this time? All right. Motion to adjourn?
When's the next meeting?
November 2nd? Yes. November 2nd? Yes.
Yes.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.